And we're back. This is the Red Press. I'm Art McGill, joined once again by Peter Martin. Now, there's been a lot of football played since the last time we spoke as Liverpool eased their way past both Real Madrid and Manchester City, almost completed a remarkable comeback against Newcastle United before the Merseyside derbies. Postponement slowed down the Reds a touch. Now, the win at Girona in midweek sees Arne men remaining both top of the Champions League and, of course, the Premier League before Fulham visit Anfield tomorrow. Now, Pete, a lot of football played there. What has been your highlight from the past couple of weeks of the Reds' journey so far?
Just that kind of amazing week, really. Real Madrid and City just dominating, controlling the game. I think we had more control over City uh, and Real Madrid than we did over Girona and Newcastle.
Yeah.
So just to have that week, that kind of sense of calm, everyone was kept saying, "Oh, judge us after this, judge us after this." But I mean, I think it's pretty safe to make a judgment now.
Yeah, there's only so long people can say, oh, they haven't really played anyone. And now we've played anyone who's worth playing, really, and come through at the other side. I mean, you're right there about the control. Liverpool never really looked in much trouble in either of those two games that you mentioned there. They were obviously in the second half, the City game, City had a lot more of the ball, and it looked at if you look at the stats, it looks a bit more like a proper City performance. But if you watch the game, even when City had the ball, Liverpool was still in control. They knew they didn't have to have possession of the ball to still control the football match. I thought it was a real kind of coming of age performance from Arne in particular. I mean, he's looking like the real deal, and he's going up against these Titans, and he barely looks to be breaking a sweat, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, we only had 5 shots on target against us between both matches. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, in that City one, I think it took them about 38 minutes to get that first shot off, and
yeah,
it was barely a shot.
yeah,
Really, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, the defense has been one of the standout kind of talking points of the season so far. You know, the meanest defense in the league, and maybe we'll start on that actually. In that there's been a little bit more shuffling around in the defense over the past couple of games. Obviously, Canate is injured. Hopefully, he'll be back in January. But Liverpool have had to shuffle the pack a little bit because Conor Bradley is also injured. And then, of course, in the Newcastle game, we saw Jaro Kwanzaa stepping at right back. Unusual kind of position for him. I mean, do you think this kind of how much Liverpool can keep more of a stable back four or back five? Do you think that's going to be kind of vital if we continue to remain as consistent as we've been?
yeah, definitely. I think it was really encouraging. What Gomez coming out in the press a couple of days ago, saying best club in the world. Happy to be here. Like the morale seems good, and I think Slot's really like using all of his squad and playing to their different strengths at different times in games. So even like bringing Kwanzaa on just to kind of tighten it up defensively just for like the last 10 minutes, it's like everyone can kind of see their role. And I think, yeah, just keeping everyone happy, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, and I mean, Joe Gomez, longest saver player at the club there. I think he was a player who was linked with a few moves away in the summer. He didn't. What was the key factors there? I'm not quite sure whether the write off didn't come in or whether he felt he was just better suited playing at Liverpool, like more of a bit part role playing at Liverpool. But again, he's proved his worth, hasn't he? He's coming in at the vital right moments. He's got brilliant attitude. He's biding his time. He never moans going to the press, moans about not getting game time. He just sits there because he's got the experience. He knows at some point he's going to get his moments. And I think, I don't know, if I was in his shoes, knowing that you could get first team football week in, week out at a mid table club or, whatever, or you can maybe get more of a squad type situation at Liverpool and win trophies and take part in this incredible journey. I mean, it's easy for me to say sat here like in my chair, but I think I would do what he does. But not all footballers are like that, aren't they? Some people just want money and playing time, but he's brilliant. Do you think when Canate is back, there might be a little bit of a battle there?
I think there could be, yeah. And I reckon he could pick it depending on the opponents as well. If it's a bit more of a physical duels kind of thing, you've got Kanate, but if it's someone who, if you're doing a high line and you need someone with like those kind of fast recovery runs, I think he might switch to Joe. So I think you've got a bit of tactical flexibility, which I think is kind of Slot's kind of main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, he definitely likes to kind of have options there and I like subtly change things. I mean, if you're talking about maybe flexibility, probably a good thing to talk about now is how he might approach the coming weeks, or certainly the Fulham game with an enforced change in midfield because Alexis McAllister is out with a suspension. You got Ryan Gravenberch as well, who's one yellow card away from getting suspended. With Tottenham next week. Now, do you
Hmm.
think there's opportunities here for Harvey Elliott to come in? Maybe even possibly Endo to come in there. I know he obviously Slot doesn't really fancy him too much because he's a very different kind of player than Gravenberg. It doesn't break through the lines and doesn't like start those counter attacks in the same way as Gravenberg does. Do you think there's room there for Elliott and Endo to play any kind of part against Fulham?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think he'll risk it from the start, but I think you could see a lot of players coming off on 60 if we're doing okay on Saturday. I think he'll start with Gravenberch and then yeah, bring him off as early as he can, just to manage the minutes. Um, yeah, feel bad for Enzo, but I can see it. I
Yeah,
couldn't at
he's
first, but I understand it now.
he's a great player, and I really like him. But you can see for two players who are two number six, they're completely different kinds
Mm,
of players. And I think at the start of the season, most people would be saying, "Oh, you probably got to have Endo there. He's the number six specialist. He's the destroyer and stuff like that." And Slot is just and Gravenberg have just shown like you don't need that at all. There's a completely different way of playing.
yeah, yeah. So I think he'll just manage the minutes. I think Wednesday will be a much more experimental lineup. I think you could potentially see Enzo and Elliott both starting on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, do you think Elliott has got a part to play in this team? Obviously, we've seen how Slot has kind of constructed his version of this midfield there, and he's with Gravenberg at the heart of it. McAllister an important part, and then we've seen Jones and Szoboszlai kind of battle it out for that third midfield place. And I think Elliott is probably a different kind of player profile to any of those other players. I mean, do you think he's got a part to play?
Yeah, maybe more similar to Jones, playing slightly further up. Uh, it just doesn't seem to have the pace, to be kind of two box to box.
Yeah,
But I think his kind of playing on the pivot, receiving the ball, moving it on, recycling it quickly. Even in the last 15 minutes at Girona, it looked good. So I think he's definitely got a value there, and I reckon he could start in one of those front three. But I think he'd get exposed for pace a little bit. But yeah, I think definitely. I just think you need to give him minutes slowly because he's been out for so long. So just take
yeah,
time.
he's been really unlucky with injuries and what have you over the years, really. So I'm hoping he can get a good run of games. I mean, like you're talking about there about you know maybe he hasn't quite got the pace and stuff like that to be playing in the front three. There's been question marks over whether he's got that kind of physicality to play in
Hmm.
that kind of midfield three. But it'd be interesting to see how he gets on under Slot because obviously it's a slightly different kind of football. Maybe he doesn't have to be as physical in the middle of the park. Maybe it is, but like we've seen it with Curtis Jones, and it's all about being a little bit more controlling with the ball. And he's definitely got technique. I mean, and he's definitely got a goal in him. And in important situations, he scored a few important goals for Liverpool already in his short career, hasn't he?
Definitely, if we're playing against a team with like a deep, like low line block, then it's obviously going to be great to bring him off the bench. If we're just kind of passing it around in front of their penalty area, like he's the kind of the man you want to kind of slot that through ball, or like yeah, he's not scared of having a shot. So
So
yeah, that'd be a big role, but maybe from the bench at first, and then yeah,
yeah,
bring more in.
like I mean, probably similar to what we see with Curtis Jones there. He was certainly not a starter at the start of the season, and he's gradually earned his place in the starting 11, and now he's keeping, not quite keeping Szoboszlai out, but he's got those two have got a challenge for who's that third place in the midfield three. I think you're right there. I think gradually, if Elliott can build on that, if you've got to obviously manage those minutes there, but I think I agree with you. I think he's got a lot to give, especially in those tight situations. We've seen him come up with important goals and stuff like that. But a man who hasn't really come up with the important goals too often is Darwin Nunez. I mean, he's been getting a little bit of stick this week. He wasn't great against Girona, and he's had a little bit of game time over the past month and hasn't really returned, on that investment in terms of goals. So I guess the question is, I mean, do you ever see him being that player that we all thought he was going to be? The 20 to 30 goal a season striker, like devastating, scoring goal after goal, week after week, and we haven't seen it. Do you think that kind of player is in there at all for Liverpool?
Sadly not, no.
Yeah, I mean, not much else needs to be
I,
said.
I
But
really, I really wish it was true because I really like him, and I think you like a bit of an unpredictable player and a bit of a wild card, and
yeah,
it definitely makes going the game more interesting. And just watching his battles with defenders and how much he kind of occupies defenders is really important for the team. But in terms of that clinical nature of just putting them away when you only get one or two chances a game, it's not going to happen.
it's not, as it? Which, it's kind of, people think of it as a massive thing because he's a number 9, and we have this idea of what a number 9 should be. But modern football isn't really like that. Most teams are playing with a front three. It's a different kind of dynamic. There's less pressure on a central attacker to be the kind of main goal scoring focus. So, I mean, I guess the question is, like, I mean, can Liverpool still have realistic ambitions of winning the league if Darwin Nunez isn't scoring not even 20 goals a season, but he isn't scoring 10 goals? Because we look back at when we did win the league last, I think Roberto Firmino only got 9 goals. Divock Origi got 4 goals. So do we maybe have to readjust our perception of Darwin Nunez? He doesn't have to be, as long as the team is scoring goals, and Liverpool are at the moment, I think, with 29 goals in the league, only second only behind Chelsea. So is it that big a deal if Nunez isn't scoring, as long as Liverpool as a team are scoring?
It's not if Salah's having the best season he's had in like the past few years. Like that definitely compensates and kind of covers a lot of that up. So I think you're right. I think that's a great point about Firmino only getting 9. I think I think it could cost you though. Like
What, in key moments rather than
yeah,
like a season overall? It's those kind
I
of key moments.
think a better striker might have got something against Newcastle. Um, but I think he can get away with it. But I think it's a risk, and is it a risk you need to take?
I
If it costs you.
I think, yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of that, really. And I think we kind of where we are at the minute is where we are. I can't imagine Arne Slot making any changes this season, nor should he really. I don't think he wants. He's got like a delicate kind of ecosystem there, and I don't think he wants to make any real changes to upset anything while it's still kind of working. As you say, with Salah still scoring, if Salah stops scoring or gets injured, it makes things a little bit more complicated. But yeah, I think it's those key moments because if Salah gets through and gets a chance, there's a good chance that he's going to get a goal. If
Yeah,
Nunez gets through 1-on-1 with the keeper, do you have any real faith that he's going to convert? And it's just not really there with the lad. And I'm with you. I like him a lot. I really do. He puts an effort in, but that's not really enough, I think, at this level. I think I was looking at his shot creating actions, and he's the lowest out of the strikers. I was looking at his touches per 90 minutes. He's the lowest out of the entire squad. So I'm thinking, well, if he's not scoring goals, what what's he really doing? He's not getting on the ball. And I think the few times we see him kind of act as that like big number 9 and trying to hold up the ball a little bit, that's maybe what he should be doing a little bit more. But we're not really seeing too much of that. But Slot does seem reluctant to play Gakpo through the middle for some reason. Like so, I guess we are a little bit short of options. Would you try Gakpo through the middle again? Because Klopp did like that.
I like him wide, Gakpo, cutting in. I think that's where he looks most dangerous.
Yeah.
I like the Diaz experiment with the Bayer Leverkusen game.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like, is it
A bit
that's something
weird,
that,
but
yeah, that's something I would have thought, nah, that's not going to work. But he kind of makes things happen, doesn't he, Diaz? He plays on the front foot whenever possible. So that was interesting. Um,
kind of
I think,
float a bit as well and double up on the side, depends on where the
yeah,
ball.
yeah, I think that was interesting there. But I mean, Diogo Jota is back in training.
Yeah.
I think the Fulham game might possibly come a little bit too soon for him. Maybe a substitute appearance. But would you be looking for him to play some kind of role against Southampton in midweek?
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to get him back as quickly as possible. Again, manage the minutes, but like he could be the difference between us winning the league. I think if we can keep Jota fit, I'd feel much more confident that you're playing a team like 3 games to go. You need a win. You get that one chance in the last in stoppage time. He's the man you want it to fall to.
Yeah, like again about those like small decisive moments rather than about what people are doing over 38 games a season. I think Jota's got the track record, hasn't he, of popping up the right place at the right time. Sometimes you wonder what he's been doing for 87 minutes, or it doesn't look like a professional footballer, but he's certainly got the numbers to kind of back it up. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
if
with
we,
like Nunez, he's got so much pace. His best attribute is that he can break through the lines and go one on one with the goalkeeper because he can out sprint people. And then when he's in that position, you never fancy him to score anyway.
no, he just hammers it as hard as he can, and then he'll be offside anyway. But
Exactly. I mean,
I,
the offside as well is just so infuriating.
yeah, it's wild. Like, I mean, I know we're kind of laying him into him a little bit there, but I mean, ultimately, if Liverpool do go on to win the league this season, he'll have played some kind of part. It's just maybe
Yeah.
not the one that we were all expecting and hoping to see, because we all want to see him bagging 20-25 goals a season. But I think if he can have some kind of realistic and meaningful kind of moments this season, that'll be enough, hopefully.
Yeah. It's
But
confidence as well. If something falls his way and if you can get a bit of momentum, you can imagine him running it for like 5 or 6 games and you know
yeah,
be a
absolutely.
big.
And if that happens against the right teams and the right part of the season, that could be enough to take
I mean,
Liverpool over the kind of the point of no return, really.
we have had some mad luck. I think McAllister getting his suspension for this game and not serving it against Everton is really lucky for us because I think that'll come in really handy. I think we just looked a bit tired. Slot kind of moaning about the performance on Girona and then from Newcastle. I think we were quite lucky not to play Everton at the weekend. I think come if we can run that again later in the season with McAllister, yeah, I think we were lucky there.
100%. Like, yeah, Slot kind of criticised the team. Not too bad, but he can't, obviously there was a little bit of criticism from Slot for the Girona match, but I thought it was all right. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great watch. It wasn't a fantastic performance, but in the context of where they are in the group, what's happening in the league, either side of the games and stuff like that, they won the game. A point would have been all right. I mean, I was kind of happy with what they did there, because obviously you've got to be realistic as well of what these players can do week in, week out with not a hell of a lot of rotation. So I was all happy. I was quite happy with Girona.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Allison back as well with
That was the big one, wasn't
the 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 way he just like gets rid of the ball quickly. It kind of made like parts of the first half like a basketball match.
it? Yeah.
It's really end to end. Um, but I think his distribution just makes such a difference to the team. I think that in itself is and he just looks massive in goal, doesn't he? He's just a
He's more physical and he's more of like an athlete than Kelleher. I mean, do you think that was a put Allison back in because it's essentially a meaningless Champions League game, so it's a good one to get him back in there, or do you think that is Allison is back in goal as the number one goalkeeper now?
I think it was a free kind of a free hit to kind of test where he was up to. And then I think he came out of it proving that he is like the main man, really. You know, Kelleher's been great, but you can't dispute that like Allison's one of the best in the world. You know, he's
Yeah,
it's the distribution, the presence, the kind of reassuring, like how he just reassures the back four. Um, it's really shitty on Kelleher to like have that one mistake against Newcastle and then have to like
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, you're right. It's because I think Allison was always going to come back anyway, according to what Slaughter's been saying. But you're right. It's kind of like really kind of unfortunate that there'll be that lingering doubt in Keller's mind as if I would have just caught the ball and wasted a few seconds, would I still have my place in the team now? I don't think he would have ultimately, but it's a shame that's like how he was, yeah, how he's going out really.
yeah. And then I think the other thing with Robertson, like the Simicast being out anyway, and Robertson just playing more games, like any doubts that we had over Robertson earlier this season, he seems to be putting them to bed. He seems to fully be in control of his position now, and he's not getting found out, and he's fully kind of settled into like yeah, pretty peak Robertson really, which is another really good sign for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think people are too quick to kind of hang him out to dry there because I mean, he's only 30. He's not like he's 33, 34. I know he's played a lot of football over the past couple of years, had a lot of sprints over the past couple of years, but he's playing, I'd say it's a fairly different role at the moment. He's not like the highest player. Him and Trent aren't the highest player, for, as part of a front five at times, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think you're right there. I think he's been really good this season. But with that in mind, maybe let's just have a quick look at the what you'd put out for a team against Fulham. Would you stick with Alisson in goal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think so. Even though I wouldn't really have any problems if Kelleher was in there. I think yeah,
Mhm.
I think Alisson is the best, is he? He's the best in the business. I think yeah, back four probably picks itself there then with the options. That slots got so Trent, Gomez, Virgil, and Robbo back four. Any problems with that?
No, songs are all fit.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think a few of them will be getting a rest on Wednesday, hopefully. Uh,
I think if Gomez starts, Kwanzaa will play Wednesday and the other way around.
yeah, I think you're right. Midfield three, McAllister out, of course. And obviously, we spoke about Gravenberch being on a yellow card, but you would maybe still start with him and try and get the game won and get him off as soon as possible.
Yeah. Under strict instruction not to do anyone.
Yeah. Because obviously, if he picks up a yellow card, it spares away that he'd miss, which I think would be vital. I think I would kind of go the other way and maybe err on the side of caution and start with Endo and see how we're doing after 60 minutes and see if we need Gravenberch to come in if we're struggling a little bit, breaking the lines and what have you. I would just be playing it a little bit easier, but it could go either way. I think Slot will probably start with Gravenberch. He did look a little bit leggy against Newcastle as well. I think at some
Mm,
point he's going to have some kind of rest there. Um, in front of Gravenberch, then would you stick with Curtis Jones, Slopsley?
yeah,
Yeah, with maybe Elliot getting some game time at some point.
yeah, wholesale midfield swap at 60 minutes, I think.
And then up front, I would go for Salah, Nunez, Gakpo. I know we've just been slagging Nunez off, but I think he's maybe the best option at the moment in that position. Would you go for Diaz on
I,
the left? Would you stick Nunez in? Obviously, Salah's going to start for you, I'm assuming.
yeah. So, yeah,
How else do you see that front three?
I think as you said, it is probably how it'll be.
Salah,
I'd be
Nunez,
tempted to
Gakpo.
try I'd be tempted to try the Diaz through the middle again, but yeah, it's a bit of a risky one. I think. Yeah, I think if they're playing quite deep and you just need another tall presence in the box as well, yeah, I'd probably go for Nunez.
Sam, well, that being said, what about a score prediction? What are you giving it? Liverpool, Fulham.
Don't know. They've had a bit of a weird run, Fulham, haven't they? Um, they've
They've
like
got something about them, definitely.
like recently drew with Tottenham away, and Arsenal at home, and then beat Brighton. Like that's a pretty good last five. I don't know. I feel like we might be going through like a mini blip. So I think it'll be closer than people think, but I think we'll come through it. So I think I'm gonna go for a 2-1.
2-1. I was thinking, what was I thinking? I mean, I was overly confident before I pressed record on this podcast. I was thinking 3-0, but maybe I've talked myself out of a 3-0. I think maybe with the changes in defence, it's maybe we might concede. I'll go for 3-1. If you're going for 2-1, I'll go for 3-1. I think we will win it. I think home to Fulham, we should be winning that. If you've got aspirations of, you know, win the league, I think you've got to be doing your job there.
Yeah.
It would be considered well the performance. Let's see what the performance is like there. But I think the 3 points is a must. And then as you start chipping away at games and you're getting towards the new year, obviously teams that are top of Christmas and New Year tend to do pretty well at the
Yeah.
end of the season. But let's not get carried away with
I think
ourselves.
recently we've like after City and Real Madrid, the Girona game and um the Newcastle game has a huge increase in kind of shots against. So it'll be interesting to see if we can kind of shut that down a bit at home, get a bit more.
Yeah, I think the kind of away form. I mean, we're hardly saying it's bad, like because of where Liverpool are, but yeah, it's just maybe you're right. There's slight little blip, which there's a lot of games at the moment, and as I said before, there's not a hell of a lot of rotation, so there's going to be an effect somewhere, and I think maybe I'm hoping something can be done with Gravenberch so we can get his feet up somewhere at some point. Maybe it'll be Curtis Jones sitting in for them rather than Endo, maybe. But yeah, you're right. There's slight little dip of form, but I mean, we're talking slight here. Liverpool are still
Yeah,
top
it's
of the
like
Champions League, still top of the league, and in such an amazing position there. I mean, do you want to like? It's difficult to give too many predictions for Southampton because it will be such uh, a changed side probably where that can happen. Obviously, there's still some injuries there, but do you see Liverpool going far in that competition? And do you think Liverpool going far in four competitions again it will be tough on the legs come what April?
yeah, definitely. But I think it also, yeah, I mean, like it all kind of went downhill after the Carling Cup final, didn't it? In February, kind of dipped off a bit after that.
The Carling Cup or the Milk Cup or the Littlewoods Cup or the
Yeah,
whatever else.
Coca-Cola one.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it definitely takes its toll. Um, but I think it can work the other way as well. It can help you kick on, especially if there's, just for Slot to win something and get over that first hurdle as the manager to feel like you've actually got, your name written in history just if something just makes a big difference. I think with Klopp, it took a few finals before he got something. So
yeah. He had that curse, that jinx, or whatever
yeah,
rubbish people
yeah,
used to say about it. And then as soon as he, started winning, there was no turning back there, isn't it? And obviously it gives players like Kelleher, who's maybe not going to get much of a sniff in the Premier League or Champions League if Alisson keeps fit. Then it gives these
yeah.
players a chance of getting involved and actually making a meaningful contribution to winning trophies, which has got to be a good thing for squad harmony and what have you.
Also, we got a good draw in the FA Cup against Accrington Stanley, which is our
Yes.
first ever meeting, which is
Oh,
funny
really?
considering that milk advert in
Yeah, it
the
seems we're so indelibly linked in so many people's minds. I'm sure that Ian Rush is going to play some kind of part in the build up to that game. And I mean, yeah, there's so many options there. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you can't really choose to go out of competitions, but I think it will probably take its toll at some point at somewhere. But yeah, let's see what happens in the future. I think hopefully 2 more Liverpool victories until we speak again. And as Liverpool march on towards Christmas, hopefully, well, they will be top of the league, up the Reds.
The Reds.